From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Welcome to the Primetime Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. Coming up, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta announces an end to the Westgate mall siege and declares 3 days of national mourning. In Ghana, the family of the renowned Ghanaian poet and statesman who died in the attack says his body will be flown in tomorrow, ahead of a private funeral to be held on October 3. We'll hear an account of how he died from his son, who was with him moments before he passed. In other news, African Automobile is making a judgment debt claim of more than $500 million Ghana cedis. It says will increase to 618 million if it's not paid by the end of this month. The National Road Safety Commission says ban on use of substandard tires, not second-hand tires, will now come into force from March 2014. We also have business, sports and showbiz all coming up.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
Very first story, African Automobile Limited is making a judgment debt claim of 511 million Ghana cedis on government. It says could increase to 618 million by the end of September 2013. The claim contained in a petition sent to the sole commissioner on judgment debt is for an amount of 16.5 million Ghana cedis awarded AAL in 2010, which has accumulated interest over the period. Justice Yao Pao at today's sitting sharply criticized the Attorney General's Department and Finance Ministry for allowing some of these debts to arise in the first place.
The judgment debt claim is in respect of vehicle maintenance services the Mitsubishi dealers provided the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations since 1995. Having exhausted the legal processes, the courts awarded the company the 16.5 million Ghana cedis in 2010. Per the petition submitted to the Commission, however, AAL is claiming more than $500 million Ghana cedis. It says keeps increasing each day the amount is unpaid. It also emerged that New World Securities received payment of 2.5 million Ghana cedis in 2010 for a 1.1 million Ghana cedis awarded in 2007. The company's chief executive, Carol Annan, explained to the Commission the doubling of the amount is based on an interest rate of 2.83% a month until the debt was finally cleared. The sole commissioner on judgment debt, Justice Yao Pao, was uncharitable in his criticism of the MMDAs involved.
When some of these agencies were called here, they themselves said they don't remember owing any service cost. Meanwhile, AL went to court against Minister of Finance and Attorney General. No defense was put up. Judgment was taken. Then minister pay. Then we pay. No cross-checking to see whether indeed these agencies or ministries or what owed African Automobile service costs. African Automobile Limited versus Ministry of Employment, Manpower and Development. With the application of statutory post-ruling interest, and this is what has been happening all along. You get the interest becoming about 5 times, 10 times the principal sum. Then finally the money is paid. From 16 million to 511 million. 3 years. So interest on the 16 million is about 495 million. Luckily, this one has not yet been paid.
In defense, the Finance Ministry said payments were made upon the recommendation of the AG's department.
We do not ask the MDAs to validate the claim before we pay. Once we get the letter from Attorney General, giving us the background, and then making recommendations that we pay, we normally go ahead and pay.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations maintains this is the first time their attention is being drawn to the $500 million Ghana cedi claim by African Automobile. African Automobile has sued several MMDAs, government agencies and departments for hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis for unpaid maintenance and servicing costs since 1995. And the $500 million Ghana cedis represent the claim against just one of these institutions.
The National Road Safety Commission has denied reports that a recent law to reduce accidents on the country's roads bans the importation of second-hand tires. According to the Commission, the law rather targets substandard tires. The Commission has meanwhile postponed implementation of the law until March 2014. Eric Curtis Howard has more.
Though the Commission had originally set out to ban second-hand tires, as communicated by several officials, the eventual law which was passed did not do that. LI 2180 of the 2012 Road Traffic Regulations Act states that a person shall not fix a tire on a motor vehicle or trailer if the tire is more than 4 years old, counting from the date of manufacture, or the tire is labeled a Class C tire, meant for use in cold weather.
The tire must have a certain minimum tread depth. The teeth of the tire must measure a certain minimum, 1.6 mm. 2, the tire must be one that was manufactured for hot tropical environments like Ghana. So you could have a used tire which meets, with all intents and purposes, these requirements. You could as well have a new tire which offends these requirements. So it would not be fair if you decided that you want to ban used tires, because you may as well have very good looking tires that are new, that are, for instance, Class C tires and unlawful for use in Ghana, are more than 6 or 4 years and unlawful for use in Ghana and their likes.
The law, according to the Commission, is informed by its studies, which indicate that 75% of tires used in the country are second-hand, with most of them being substandard. The substandard tires, it says, are responsible for a third of all fatal road accidents in the country. The use of second-hand tires was also found to have the effect of reducing vehicular braking capabilities, with a high probability of crashes occurring in wet conditions. Kwame Etuahini-Kodia explains the Commission will be implementing a strict monitoring and enforcement regime to ensure all second-hand tires imported meet the necessary safety requirements. He says the decision to postpone implementation of the law to March 2014 follows consultation at which stakeholders agreed more time was needed to educate the public on the law.
There was the need for much deeper and further consultation. For instance, we may want to rely on the customs or the guys at the port to do the enforcement at the point of entry. It will be counterproductive if these guys do not themselves understand the technical aspect of these requirements the way we do. There may be problems. The same to do with our folks at Ghana Standards Authority and even the police.
The Commission is meanwhile appealing to importers to be mindful of the grade and quality of tires they import.
Now, 12 people have been killed in a gory accident at Nsayem near Taqua in the Western region. There were 9 males and 3 females.
The accident took place at about 6:30 Monday evening, involving a Hyundai minibus with registration number WR290513 and a tipper truck with registration number GT1004U. 12 out of the 13 passengers on board the Hyundai minibus, which was heading towards Takrady from Taqua, were killed instantly. The tipper truck was heading towards Taqua from Takoradi. The driver of the tipper truck and one other person on the Hyundai bus survived the accident and are on admission at the Discov Hospital in critical condition, whilst the dead bodies have been deposited at the Fiakwanta Hospital morgue. Western Regional MTTU Commander DSP Thomas Bayo narrated the incident to Joy News.
There was a parked trailer vehicle. So the bus, in an attempt to overtake the parked trailer, veered into the lane of the Hyundai minibus. As a result, there was head-on collision. There is likelihood of overspeeding on both sides of the drivers, because the driver that was from Taqua coming, if you know because of the overspeeding, when there was a vehicle parked in his lane, he should be able to slow down to allow this other vehicle to pass, then he can come into that lane to overtake. But because he was overspeeding, he could not have stopped at that point, so he veered into this mad lane. But as we are in the third quarter, normally in Westgate we record our highest accident rate in the third quarter, where it is raining. So my advice is that at this period, drivers should slow down their speed and observe what is happening on the road before they can speed. But if you overspeed and think that you are in a hurry to go, there can be a parked vehicle, there can be a broken down vehicle, anybody at all can be crossing the road. So we need to slow down, have patience on the road, and then allow our road users to have fresh air on the road.
A report filed by William Benjamin Peters from the Western Region.
Now, some flood-prone areas in Kumasi fear they would be rendered homeless if authorities do not act now. According to them, they feel threatened each time it rains. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
Some parts of Moshizongo and Asuyeboa, both in Kumasi, are noted for flooding after every downpour. Residents say just as the rains have set in, they are anxious about their lives and property. Some residents have already relocated from the area due to the frequent floods. But for other residents, they cannot afford to relocate because they do not have the means. According to residents of Moshizongo, the poor construction of the storm drain makes the flooding situation worse anytime it rains. After several walks through this community, there is every indication that some of the buildings have already been affected. Unit Committee Secretary told Joy News what residents have done so far to curb the situation.
Last year we did dredge the drains, but it was the monies were contributed by the landlords who reside along the banks of the river. The government never came in to help us. So this year we made some projections to meet them. But because some of them are saying that when we did the last time, it did help, of course. But this year, they are not willing to support us anymore because they thought it was the duty of the government to come and do it. So we are really in hardship. We will expect the government, we will appeal to the government to come and help us. If even they can dissolve the gutter and construct the bridge for us, they have to open it wide for the rain to pass through direct.
But some residents still have worries. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report from the Ashanti region.
Yeah, down for a friend Escobar. Need them. Everybody who is sending your money system, need them TV, name Kunja, and be behind Arsenal. Yama, men, suit or crana. Or Munti, baby, and for Mutifa. Once or Muja, and almost or someone bad.
Meanwhile, part of Awoonor, a suburb of Kumasi, Monday morning was submerged after a heavy downpour. Some houses were flooded, leaving its occupants stranded for hours. No casualty was recorded, though. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports again.
After hours of heavy downpour, some parts of Awoonor was flooded. Residents could not get out of their buildings because of the level of the flood water. Residents say the bridge is too small to accommodate the amount of flood waters. 2 children were rescued by a combined team of fire service and police personnel. One of the affected residents, Taqua Mankwa, said this is the 3rd time the area has been flooded and nothing has been done about it.
It's about the 3rd time, but this is the biggest one that we have actually encountered. The first and second one did not, we didn't see much of this.
He explained the family attempted to drain a river close to the residency to avoid future floods, but was charged some amount of money and other stuffs by the elders of the area for exposing it.
It was the wife and I initiated the process, and upon doing that, we were summoned to the palace that we have exposed the water. This is a place where the Queen Mother comes and have a bath occasionally, and so since we have actually dreaded the place, she can't have a bath here anymore. And so they called us to the palace and asked us to pay certain amount. We pleaded. Then it came to 200 Ghana cedi, which is the old 2 million plus 2 white goats and sheep, and then 2 bottles of schnapps.
He appealed to the government to come to their aid.
I'll just appeal to the authorities to come to our aid, but until then, my family and I have no choice.
Now here in the capital, there was some rain as well, which lay bare Accra's vulnerability to flood. It may not have been much, but it left in its wake pools of stagnant water on some of the city's roads, much to the displeasure of motorists and pedestrians. It was worse at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, where drivers and other road users had to wade through pools of water. The poor drainage system has been blamed, but hopefully the planned redevelopment of the Kwame Nkrumah Circle will address the problem. We have more stories coming up after the break. Don't go away. Now, Kenya's president has announced an end to a 4-day siege by suspected Islamist militants at Nairobi's Westgate shopping centre. In a televised address, Uhuru Kenyatta announced that 5 attackers had been shot dead by troops and 11 suspects taken into custody. He also declared 3 days of national mourning, but insisted that Kenya had shamed and defeated its attackers.
With gun, 11 suspects are in custody in connection with the attack. Intelligence reports had suggested that a British woman and 2 or 3 American citizens may have been involved in the attack. We cannot confirm the details at present, but forensic experts are working to ascertain the nationalities of the terrorists. I promise that we shall have a full accountability for the mindless destruction, deaths, pain, loss, and suffering undergone as a national family. These cowards will meet justice, as will their accomplices and patrons, wherever they are. Fellow
Now, former President Jerry John Rawlings has called on the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM, to explore all avenues to bring an end to activities of Somali-based Al-Qaeda-linked terror group Al-Shabaab. In a message of condolence and solidarity to the government and people of Kenya following the terrorist attack on the Westgate Mall in Nairobi on Saturday, the former president, who played a key role in the transition process in Somalia, which led to the election of Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud as president of Somalia in 2012, said, "I write with sadness to express my deepest condolences to the government and people of Kenya, and indeed all members of the international community who have been affected in diverse ways by the senseless acts of terrorism at the Westgate Mall in Nairobi." President Rawlings said Kenya has played a key role in ensuring peace in Somalia, first as a host of several international organizations pursuing peace in Somalia, and later supporting the peace enforcement mission in that country by joining AMISOM. The Westgate attack is a reminder of the huge challenges that still confront Somalia, and particularly AMISOM troops contributing countries post-August 2012, and all avenues have to be explored to bring an end to the devious agenda of the Al-Shabaab insurgents. The former president called on the government and people of Kenya to remain resolute even under these trying moments, and continue to play a vital role in securing stability within the region. The body of the late Professor Kofi Awoonor, the Ghanaian statesman and poet who died in the Westgate mall attack in Nairobi, Kenya, is expected to arrive in the country tomorrow. The late poet's family told journalists after a closed-door meeting today, October 3 has been set for a private funeral service, adding the remains of the professor will be interred at Weta, his hometown in the Volta region, on November 9, before a state burial to be held in his honor 2 days later.
Meeting, which was held at his residence between the family and some government officials, was to plan the burial and funeral rites of the late professor. The government delegation was led by the Chief of Staff, Prosper Bani, and Speaker of Parliament, Do Ajaho. Professor Kofi Awoonor, who spoke on behalf of the family, said the body will arrive at the Kotoka International Airport at 11 a.m.
We were in the middle of the meeting when the Chief of Staff received confirmation from Nairobi that indeed we can expect Professor Awoonor's remains to arrive tomorrow on Kenyan Airways. That's number one. The reception for his remains, formally, various groups have been identified to be present. But we cannot, given who he was, we cannot stop other people who would like to witness the event from coming.
He explained the late professor planned his burial before his death.
Professor Awoonor has made a specific statutory declaration requesting for a strictly private burial, which will take place on Thursday. It can only be by Thursday, the 3rd of October. On the 11th of October, which I believe is a Friday, the state plans to have a special program to honor him publicly. Professor Awoonor's final remains, by his own wish, will be conveyed to his hometown, where he will be finally laid to rest. And that is going to be the 9th of November.
Some distinguished personalities, including Major Retired Kojo Chikata and the National Democratic Congress delegation led by Vice Chairman Alhaji Hudu Yaya, were at the residence to sign a book of condolence.
He's left a legacy. He's written books. He has been very strong on African culture. He has been very strong on Pan-Africanism. He has been very strong on fighting for a just society, a society that takes care of the weak and the vulnerable. He has been very strong about that. I think those who have drunk from his fountain of wisdom, what the best we can do is to continue to hold the torch that he has lit.
There were also a delegation from the English department of the University of Ghana.
He also was a very important part of our graduate program. So supervision of PhD thesis and so on. That was also a great service that he rendered to our department. We have not yet recovered from that shock.
One of Professor Kofi Awoonor's son, Tenu Awoonor, shared some fond memories of his father.
Took very good care of his children. He loved his children very much. He loved his family. Was very passionate about us and what we did and what our interests were, and was very involved in every aspect of our lives. And so I've had very fond memories, growing up with him. We had an opportunity to travel with him as well extensively throughout his assignments, from our days with him in Brazil to Cuba to the U.S., our many vacations and family trips together. Those are all memories that we have, and things that we can look back on.
Meanwhile, another son of Professor Kofi Awoonor, who was with him in Kenya when he died, has been recounting the attack at the Westgate Mall, which claimed his life. A visibly devastated Afechi Awoonor told BBC's Komla Dumo they had gone to the mall on that fateful day for lunch when the terrorists struck. You recall that the moment they alighted from the vehicle, they heard gunshots with people running helter-skelter for safety. Fearing for his life, he said he decided to run for cover and in the process lost communication and contact with the father who had then entered the mall. Afechi Awoonor confirmed that he was shot in the back while running away from the tragic scene but managed to crawl to a hideout. According to him, the numerous tributes to his father that have been pouring in have been helpful, adding that, and I quote, "My family and I appreciate them." In other news, students and staff of the Butia Senior High Technical School are calling on government to come to their aid by improving the infrastructure to enhance teaching and learning. The school still holds some classes under trees due to inadequate classrooms and also lacks a staff common room, among others.
Abutia Senior High Technical School was established in 1991 as a private community institution solely administered by the community. It was absorbed into the public system as a day school in 1992 and subsequently certified as a boarding school in 2004, but has no befitting dormitories. The contract for the construction of the boys' dormitory was awarded in 2007, but was abandoned at a level of 80% complete. The boys are presently housed in these two classrooms belonging to the Abutia EP Primary School, and this as their bathroom. School authorities say due to the location of the dormitories away from the main campus, controlling students is difficult. According to the school authorities, some months back, the girls' dormitory was also located outside the main campus until one of the students was raped, compelling the girls to demonstrate to be relocated to the main campus for security. The senior house mistress currently occupies one of the rooms on the same floor for the female students. The school has just one bungalow that houses the headmaster. The school has no dining and assembly halls, and so students take their meals in one of the classrooms.
The government is building a dining hall for the assembly hall complex for us. But the project has stalled. It has reached roofing stage, and the contractors have abandoned site.
This room serves as an office for the accountant and a storeroom for the pantry women. This is the only source of water on the campus for students. The Abutia Senior High Technical School has a population of close to 1,000 students. Komla Ado's report for Joy News.
Swijaman District Chief Executive Thomas Ampem Inyako has called on the chiefs and people of the area to support his administration to enable him work effectively and efficiently to accelerate development. He made the call when he visited some chiefs at Akwamu, Enumboso, and Bosogwa in the Swijaman District of the Eastern Region in the three traditional areas to interact with them. Haruna Yusuf Wumpuni reports.
The courtesy call on the chiefs is to enable the new DCE introduce himself properly to the chiefs and people at the various traditional areas. He said the NDC government has already started some development projects in the district and he will continue those projects. He promised to develop the Sujaman district and enhance effective teaching and learning. The acting Omahini of Enum traditional area, Nana Kwesi Anyane V, and the Chidomhene of Busogwa traditional area said the main problem facing their communities is the bad nature of the roads and inadequate classroom facilities, as well as provision of potable drinking water.
I said this time also, and you could do on us, I fair, because it is most unfortunate, potholes, into me, into your bedroom, Juma. Nana eka adisia ho asem anka na mantinya ma DC sa enti sa adeno na ese yetumi ede hye ma na me dese na nanom so school ho nsam eda won Kumasi Yebeshe na percentage ayenya wa ha. One performance, BC, SSC in the Adeno, say year after year, ebekoso.
They advised the DC not to be partisan in the course of his work.
Hello there, welcome to Joy Business with me, Abigail Adumakointri. Now, revenues from the oil sector, in spite of its contribution to the buoyant economy in 2011, could not sustain economic growth in 2012 as growth have fallen from 7.2% in 2012. The Institute of Statistics, Social and Economic Research, ISE's report on the economy also makes it clear that the declining performance of the agricultural sector remains a hindrance to economic growth. Ghana's 7.2 economic growth in 2012 was a 2.2 percentage points lower than the target for that year, according to the ISA State of the Ghanaian Economy report. The decline translates into a real GDP of 30.1 billion cedis and nominal GDP of 73.1 billion cedis, which further indicates a fall in the real per capita GDP growth rate from 12.3% in 2011 to 5% in 2012. The agricultural sector, which employs about 50% of Ghanaians, performed poorly against a strong performance from the services sector, which recorded a growth of 10.2%, a trend ISA says it has observed since 2006. For them, the agricultural sector must be transformed for Ghana to realize a buoyant economy.
We've seen that the GDP or the contribution of GDP in agriculture is going down. We will still have quite a lot of the citizens in agriculture. Resources in agriculture is still going up. We've had surplus in food production. So the whole area of agriculture is not as worse off as we thought with oil. So now we should be thinking of having fewer people in agriculture and producing for the nation. And that is the type of transformation we expect. When you go to the advanced country, the US, you have fewer population producing. And they will produce and have excess and is sent to our country. And that is a stage that we've reached in Ghana that we have to find a way of transforming agriculture.
Government admits the agricultural sector needs attention, particularly with oil and gas exploration, in order to prevent the country from being plunged into the Dutch disease syndrome.
Government is making very clear interventions in terms of ensuring that as we continue to exploit our hydrocarbon resources, we do not get to the stage where we would have to diagnose Ghana as having suffered or suffering from the Dutch disease. The environment and GDP is what brings me to the growth that we have been recording in the agric sector. We realize that when we look at our national budget, most of the time we lump logging, that's the forestry sector, and that of the entire agric sector. And so, what is the strategy? If we decide that, look, we think that rosewood is so good, we shouldn't be ensuring the export of rosewood. And so that records as a reduction in the forestry and the logging sector. And that comes to negatively impact on growth in the agric sector. Is that policy intervention good and productive? I would say yes, it is good and productive.
The report also points out the challenges of unemployment and the fiscal pressures facing the government and recommends government to pursue an employment-centered economic growth while widening the tax base to offset the huge wage bill currently in existence. Now, this year's National Policy Fair has been launched. The fair, the fourth in the series, is expected to bring together private organizations to participate and explore opportunities for possible collaboration with government. According to the Deputy Minister of Information, Phyllis Ofosukwachi, the initiative is part of government's quest to create an enabling platform that will bring together all partners to support nation building.
The 3-day policy fair themed Partnership and Innovation for Development is expected to create the platform for opportunities for people to seek the right information, interact with policymakers and policy implementers with a view of enhancing policy formulation and review. The Deputy Minister of Information, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, launched the 4th Ghana Policy Fair, assuring that the fair will provide the platform for the private sectors to explore opportunities for possible collaboration and help create the needed employment avenues for the Ghanaian youth.
Our collective quest for progress and prosperity necessarily makes all of us partners in development and government, and we will continue to provide the tools needed for all of us to function effectively and efficiently as partners in development. Our development experience over the years has taught us that government alone cannot do it. We need the active participation of the private sector to achieve our developmental aspirations. It is this realization that has led to the promotion of a concept of public-private partnerships by government.
He added that this year's fair is aimed at bringing governance closer to the people and ultimately ensure that people collectively own policies and programs that are churned out in the governance process.
The Ghana Policy Fair is expected to engage the people of Ghana in a constructive deliberation on the various policies of government in a way that could lead to the rejection, continuity or refinement of some of these policies. It is through this kind of deliberative process that we can make a clear distinction between the policies that maximally conduce to the promotion of the well-being of the people and the ones that are obsolete and therefore not doing too well in the advancement of the aspirations and ambitions of the people.
He entreated all Ghanaians to patronize the fair since it provides the opportunity for people to freely interact with policymakers, to offer suggestions, seek information, clarify policy issues and better understand policy and project initiatives. The fair will run from Tuesday 15th October to Thursday 17th at the Accra International Conference Centre.
Now, First Bank of Nigeria has finally secured Bank of Ghana's approval to take over International Commercial Bank Ghana, ICB. It follows the decision by parent company of ICB to sell its stake in Ghana and other 4 West African countries to First Bank. The Nigerian bank last year began due diligence on ICB for possible takeover. It, however, had to wait for Bank of Ghana's approval before the deal could be said to be sealed or finalized. Under the terms of approval, First Bank is required to offload at least 40% of the shares to Ghanaians through private placement or the Ghana Stock Exchange, of which at least 25% should be offloaded by December 31, 2014, and the remainder not later than 31st December 2016. And to some other stories, Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. And to some other stories, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Creative Arts, Elizabeth Ofosu-Ajari, has called on all to assist in maximizing the lot of the sector as the ministry plans to mark this year's World Tourism Day. She called for collective efforts to boost revenue from the help raise enough revenue for the country.
World Tourism Day for 2013 falls on the 27th of September, and this year's celebration is centered on water and how it can be utilized to protect the future of the entire world. The ministry says it wants to use the period to raise awareness about the role of tourism in access to water and put a spotlight on the sector's contribution to a more sustainable water future. The tourism minister launched the event.
On Wednesday, the 25th of September, there will be an exhibition at the Small and Medium Enterprises Center at Ainase, also in the Western region. On Thursday, the 26th of September, a stakeholder workshop on the theme Tourism and Water, Protecting Our Common Future will also be held at the Rainbow International Hotel, Taqua. The topics selected for the exposition of the theme, which will be led by experts, include A, the role of water bodies in the promotion of tourism industry, the impact of oil, gas, and mining, exploration, and production activities on water bodies, and measures to mitigate its impact, water and sanitation, issues of public concern, and finally, the role of Ghana Water Company Limited in tourism promotion.
The ministry is settling on Nkrofo in the Western region for the celebration with the aim of showcasing the tourism potential of the hometown of Ghana's founding leader, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The move, they add, is in line with the ministry's rotational policy to ensure that each region gets to host the event.
Other regions will also celebrate the day with sensitization programs on the theme and organize visits to water sites and also organize visits for tourist clubs, associations, societal groups, etc.
The targeted participants are industry practitioners, managers of tourism resources, lecturers and students offering courses in travel, tourism and hospitality, and civil society groups, amongst others.
And that's all for business. My name is Abigail Adumakwenchi.
Joy News Business.
Sports is brought to you in association.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports. Now, all is set for Ghana's final World Cup qualifier against Egypt as the Pharaohs confirmed the date for the second leg of the qualifier in Egypt. The venue of the game, however, has not been determined due to security concerns. Egypt will host the Black Stars in the return leg of the FIFA 2014 World Cup playoffs on Tuesday, 19th November. But the North African country is yet to decide on the venue for the match due to security concerns. The first leg will be played in Kumasi on the 15th of October at the Babayara Sports Stadium. Egypt have been in turmoil since the political uprising in the country in 2012, which led to the removal of former leader Hosni Mubarak. Football in the country has been suspended since the violence broke out at a league match involving Al Masri and Ahli in February 2012. At least 74 people were killed and hundreds injured after soccer fans rushed the field in the seaside city of Osei. Head coach Bob Bradley and his team will start preparations on Thursday, 26 September for the first leg. The American trainer has named a provisional 33-man squad to begin preparations. The Federation of African Football intends to stick with the mandatory MRI scans ahead of its junior competitions. The Under-17 African Youth Championship, to be held in Niger in 2015, would see all teams undergo the mandatory test to determine the rightful ages. Now to some hockey news. Now, the male and female senior national hockey teams have 7 days to raise an amount of $75,000 to avoid missing out this year's Hockey Africa Cup of Nations in Kenya, slated for early next month. The National Hockey Association are still in the hunt for the needed funds from elsewhere after the Ministry of Sport hinted it could not support the budgetary demands of the competition. Nigeria and Namibia, who were billed for the A-team tournament, have pulled out because of funding, and if the current situation does not improve, Ghana may follow suit. That'll be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adi Jr. Israel is up next with international news.
Sports was brought to you in association with.
The display of culture was at its peak when the people of the Volta regional capital, who marked the 10th anniversary celebrations of the chief of the Asogli states during the Ayam festival.
It was a thrilling moment for the people of Ho as they celebrated the Asogliam festival. The night before the Grand Durbar, there was a lot of drinking and partying around town. Some musicians also came together to treat residents and fans to live stage performances, which got the large crowd electrified. On the day of the Grand Durbar, the Agbobomefia of the Asogli state, Togbi applauded this 14th. His elders and the people all assembled at the whole stadium where they observed traditions with culture beautifully displayed. When it was all over, not even the rain would stop the charged celebrants from walking amidst drumming and dancing to Togbi's palace.
and for the love and respect of his people, Togbi Apade walked in the rain with his people. Once at the palace, the heavier the rainfall, the more these celebrants got charged, and they danced like it was nobody's business. Many have described this year's festival celebrations as the most memorable of all.
It has been a double do, in the sense that Agubofia is celebrating its 10th anniversary on the throne. And apart from that, the annual Yam Festival. So you can just see, it has been so great, the festival.
It's fine, everything is fine.
It's so extraordinary.
Sure, babe.